Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Firstly, I'd like to introduce myself. I've recently joined SSV about 1 month ago. Really happy to be here. It's an awesome time to be joining this team. In terms of my role, I am the ecosystem growth manager, and my focus is on growing our community, growing our partnerships, and taking engagement to the next level. Yes. We're standing on the precipice of a landmark achievement that's been 2 years in the making. We've been diligently laying the groundwork for what is about to unfold in the world of Ethereum staking. Now, let's be clear. We're not standing here with a big switch that we can flip on and set everything spinning, or the cogs. We're embarking on a journey, a prolonged event that will transform Ethereum staking one step at a time. We're not rushing. We're taking the time to ensure everything is just right. Over the coming months, we will be launching Mainnet in carefully planned stages. Each stage is to ensure technical improvements are properly implemented, thoroughly tested, and gradually released to the public. This approach is all about balance. It ensures our technology doesn't just make a loud entrance, but lands smoothly and continues to perform beyond expectations. And here's the key thing that I want you to remember. This is the first step of a journey that will redefine Ethereum staking. So buckle up, because we're setting the stage for a future that's more secure, more decentralized, and most importantly, more exciting. Now let's look at the agenda. We'll begin with a talk from Alan, giving some insights on how SSV is a scalable, decentralized DVT network, and that is developer first. Next, Ahiel will give us an overview of the mainnet phases. Then we will listen to Adam, who will share how SSV mainnet can be taken to the next level. And then we'll go back to Alan for final thoughts. So, Alan, let's head over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our mainnet rollout. We have a bunch of different things to talk about, but I really wanted to start with the very thing we're trying to build on top, which is Ethereum staking. Ethereum staking has been through a lot ever since the December 2020 genesis. We saw a number of forks along the way. We saw a huge growth in Ethereum staking, the total amount of ETH staked. But what is less talked about is really what are the next phases or the next evolutions of Ethereum staking. And up until this point, we really talked about Ethereum as really a mechanism for securing Ethereum, but it becomes much more than that. Ethereum staking today is becoming a mammoth. It's becoming the staple around which many different applications and features are being built. Some of them are already existent in the Ethereum ecosystem. Some of them are outside of the Ethereum ecosystem, and some of them are just recently became available on the Ethereum ecosystem. But a lot of them and all of them really now seeing the value of Ethereum staking being integrated in one way or the other into their core functionality. Things like DeFi being really embracing liquid staking tokens is, I would say, one of the best and most fast token types to grow as liquidity provisions, as collateral, and so on, basically in a lot of other different applications replacing Ethereum itself. We are seeing really tight integration with MEV and new protocols coming up online, like restaking, and of course, bridges, L2s, and other different types of different applications on top of Ethereum currently or in the future will be engaging or integrating Ethereum staking into their core protocols. And all of that really stems from Ethereum being obviously a central point within the ecosystem, but also now with the power of Ethereum staking, it makes a lot of people more engaged actively in the different protocols and services on Ethereum. And so this unlocks really a lot of value initially from the proof of work industry, which basically got transitioned, its entire value was transitioned into staking and the people and services doing staking. And now we're seeing staking, Ethereum staking specific, basically going into those different areas. And so there's a lot of value being created, both for Ethereum holders that do staking, but also in those types of protocols. And so it really kind of solidifies Ethereum staking as first of all, solidifies POS as kind of the next wave or the next future of consensus protocols, but also Ethereum staking within Ethereum itself. And I truly believe that even with the tremendous growth we saw the past almost 3 years, we're really at the beginning. Obviously, we saw TVL grow, but I think from now on, we'll see a much deeper integration into the different things and the different things that happen on Ethereum itself. But there are a bunch of challenges to it. It doesn't come easy, and there are some challenges that we as a community, as an ecosystem, need to solve, primarily those three. So the ease of which we can create, first of all, staking, but also staking applications and services, keeping in mind that we have to not compromise on being as decentralized as we can, because ultimately it creates a systemic risk on Ethereum. And ultimately, I believe that the core of Ethereum staking and the majority of staked Ethereum should be in public protocols, transparent, decentralized, permissionless, because that's kind of the ethos of Ethereum itself. And I think if we scale Ethereum staking and compromise in any of those three, that creates a major challenges going forward. And so, with this great opportunity, also those challenges present opportunity in of themselves, because there are ways using technology to really solve that. And really, that's where SSV comes into play. SSV, as I see it, plays along with all of the different things we've mentioned before, from DeFi protocols, MEV, bridges, L2, restaking, all of those, because ultimately, if we're talking about Ethereum staking, at the end of the day, whatever the type of service is, whatever the type of protocol is, somebody needs to run a 32 ETH validator somewhere. And we are aiming and hoping that that somewhere will be the SSV network. SSV really has kind of in its core value the ability to be super easy to set up, and composable. Composable means that SSV can play nice with other protocols, with other services, within a unified tech stack. And that's extremely important if we're looking at again, Ethereum staking as kind of the base core component for everything else. Ethereum staking is super easy to scale up on Ethereum, on SSV. You can start up with one validator and scale it up to thousands really easily in the way we've set it up. If SSV is decentralized and it's permissionless, and it's also a community-owned project. It's a public good, and all four of those factors are, in my opinion, are crucial and important for the things we're trying to solve, which are make it easy to stake on Ethereum, make it decentralized in a public and transparent way. And all of those three things, I think, go hand in hand with kind of the trend and trajectory we're seeing in the global Ethereum staking and in general the Ethereum ecosystem. Really, our mission is to transition the conversation from discussing a single point of failure type of validator clients, where validators are run by one machine, and if that machine is compromised in any way or is offline in any way, then those validators suffer. Transition that discussion towards DVT, but more in specific, DVT networks, where we have a big interconnected network of clusters, as we call them. A cluster is really a group of operators, node operators, running together in order to execute on the behalf of a validator, or to execute duties on the behalf of the validator. And so that transition is really what DVT is all about, is replacing the existing type of infrastructure to a more decentralized, easy to use, and public type of infrastructure on which many applications and services can build, and really scale up the type of services and protocols we all want to see on Ethereum. And so with that mission in mind, we set up about 2 years ago, even more than 2 years ago. We set up with a very simple strategy. We quickly realized that the future of Ethereum staking is really up to developers, because they are the ones driving the vast majority of validators on Ethereum. About 95% of stake on Ethereum is managed by liquid staking token protocols, exchanges, different services, and so on. And so focusing on those developers was one of the first strategic moves and decisions we did within SSV. And everything we've done ever since really was focused around that idea that we want to be the tool that developers use in order to build different applications around Ethereum staking. And with that in mind, I'm super happy to kind of finally get into this point in the project's life where we can clearly set a path towards Mainnet. And to tell the truth, we are already on Mainnet. We have 4 different stages for this Mainnet rollout. I'll let Ariel expand on each one of them and what it means, how it's going to happen, why we did that in such a way. But I think one of the main thing to remember is SSV is already on Mainnet, and it's being tested on Mainnet, and it's performing amazingly, even better than any other benchmark we're seeing. It's been super easy to set up, and there's a lot of things happening through those different stages. And so we are right now at the pre-launch stage, already started. And we have 3 more stages to go, and each one of them is unique. Each one of them opens and unlocks different feature set that will serve the great community of Ethereum, and each one of them is a value added on the previous one. And so, with no further ado, I'll give up the mic to Ariel to explain and go through the different phases and what exactly each one of them represents, means, and what different features it unlocks.
All right. Okay, thank you, Alon. For those of you who doesn't know me, my name is Ariel. I'm the CPO here at Blocks. And before we dive into the whole rollout details, I wanna start off by saying that this is a very exciting community call for us. We anticipated this for a couple of years now, and we're very happy to finally announce our mainnet launch and present to you and share all of the launch details. So with that, our rollout plan is a multi-phase process. We have the pre-launch phase, we have the limited launch, we have the launch itself, and the permissions launch phase. And the goal is to start the network very permissionally and gradually open up the gates throughout the phases until we become a permissionless network that anyone can use. The notion behind this decision was that this was a couple of years in the making. It's very complex, it's very technical, there's a lot of moving parts. We personally believe that DVT has the potential to contribute a lot to Ethereum security and decentralization over the years. So there's a lot of stake, right? Especially for a new network, especially for the early adopters that use it. So we want to take a very safe and reliable approach to it. And it all starts with the pre-launch. The pre-launch is basically a sanity check to make sure that the network is performing as it should. And in this stage, we deployed our contracts finally to Mainnet. We spin up a couple of our operators and onboarded a few validators to them. Now, all of this is going to last for a few weeks, enough for the core team to test out everything and to make sure that all the core functionalities are working as we transition from testnet to mainnet. So in this phase, both the operators, the validators, and the TVL at stake, all internally from the core team. Now, as Alon already mentioned, we tried to keep this a secret, but basically we are already live. We started a few weeks ago, and since then we already have 32 distributed validators running on Mainnet, and I'm very happy to say that they're performing at a performance which is way above the average of the network, which is very exciting. If you want to keep track on it, go to our Mainnet Explorer, check it out. Following this phase is the limited launch. And this phase is basically scaling the pre-launch with additional operators. So in this phase, we're going to introduce verified operators to the network, open the gates for another 20 verified operators, and extends the validators on the network that we own to around 200 validators and allocate them between the operators. So in this phase, the operators are external, the validators and the TVL at stake are still internal. This is being followed by the launch itself. This is the phase where we basically introduce builders to the network, which are other staking applications, mainly grantees that we've been working with very closely over the last years in our grants program and the ecosystem funds. Builders are a very crucial cornerstone to our protocol, as Alon mentioned. This is our strategic approach to how we believe DVT will finally be adopted. So in this phase, we're going to open the gates for another 10 different staking applications and enable them to onboard their own validators. This phase is really important milestones. It's going to be really exciting to see how real users are finally interacting and using our networks. We're talking about real staking pools, staking services, institutional staking, and squad staking solutions and applications. And I think this is really the phase where the world will see the true power of a DVT network and distributed validators running in a permissionless way. And so in this phase, operators, validators, TVL at stake are all external, but to a permissioned set of people. All of this has been followed by the permissionless launch phase. And this phase basically removes all of the restrictions of the previous phases and will open up the gate for any operator, any staking application, even any solo staker to use the network. This is the long-lasting phase, right? And the plan here is throughout 2024 to scale it up with more operators, more staking applications. We currently have around 30 teams in the process or near completion of their grants. So they will gradually roll out throughout the year. So in one sense, this is the last phase, but from the other, this is just the beginning. We're only getting started here, so buckle up. And that's pretty much the phases, guys. As you can see, here's the overview of the phases, their timelines, and how they segment between operators, validators, and TVL at stake. The pre-launch has already started, with the limited launch planned to start at August. The launch itself will be commencing between September and October, and the permissions launch near the end of the year at November. Guys, this is the slide to screenshot if you haven't done already. And before we move on, I just want to say thank you to all the launch partners who are taking part with us in this launch and helping make this a reality, and all the members here for being part of our community for all of these years. We really appreciate every one of you. And with that, I'm going to pass the stage to our co-founder, Adam, to talk about all the things related to marketing. Thank you.
Perfect, guys. So before I dive into how we're going to share our work with the world, I really want to invite everyone to kind of ask questions. See, there's an open channel in YouTube, and we have an AMA thread going on in Discord as well. So if you want to ask questions, we're here to answer whatever you want. And we're going to have some follow-up events. So if anything will come up in the future, you know how to reach the team. What I wanted to do in this segment is basically go over how are we going to share our work with the world, how are we going to make this entire launch and obviously the ssv network a success. Obviously, this won't happen without good marketing and harnessing the power of the community, and this is definitely going to be a major focus moving forward. So as a team, I assume that a lot of you already know we are very tech heavy, tech focused. We have a tendency to kind of put some of our marketing work on the back burner. This is going to change significantly in the next few months, obviously leading to our mainnet and our permissionless launch. It's definitely going to be a meaningful focus for the company moving forward. So a few of the things that we are going to do as part of the mainnet rollout. Obviously, there's a lot that is not described here in the presentation, but just as an overview. We're going to have a lot of those calls that we're doing right now, like mainnet calls. So it's community calls. We basically kind of rebranded to mainnet calls. a lot of AMAs. So we are starting to do a weekly AMA for the community, and we're going to add a bi-weekly AMA for the Chinese community. Stats and analytics, I think it's important to kind of share with the world how the network is doing, how the different operators are looking, the fees that are being aggregated, the overall TVL. So we really want to be close to the numbers to show the health of the protocol to the world and to make sure that people are aware of its success. And then we're going to have phase-specific campaigns. So I'll get into that in a later presentation, but basically for each and every one of the phases in our mainnet, we're going to have a few campaigns coming out to kind of focus on the different features and you could say protocol upgrades that are coming up. Last but not least, we basically doubled our marketing team. We did that recently, so expect to see a lot more marketing coming out from our team, a lot more activities, AMAs, offline events, online events, and so on and so forth. And we really want to kind of focus on doing a lot with the different launch partners that are involved in our mainnet launch. Ariel thanked them earlier on. These are teams from all over the world that have been contributing to the network for the past 2 or even 3 years, really being with us since day one, a lot of them at least. I really want to give them the stage and make sure it's their moment to shine. The goals from a marketing perspective is transparency, activation, and growth. So we want to make sure that you guys have all the information you need and access to information. That's the transparency part. The team is available to answer any questions, and obviously everything regarding the mainnet launch is clear and easy to access for everyone. Then activation. So we want to make sure that the community and the different people who are involved in the project have the ability to kind of interact with us and take part in what we do. And then obviously growth is about making sure that it's not, only the people who are doing Ethereum staking and, are close to DVT, know about the project and are taking part in it. It's the broader crypto community, and that's where we want to go eventually. Right. Cool. So basically, I mentioned earlier on phase-specific campaigns. Phase-specific campaigns are, you can say, focused campaigns that we're going to do for each one of the mainnet phases. So I think Alon and Ariel mentioned earlier on that we have the limited launch, the launch, and the permissionless launch. In each and every one of those steps, we're going to have a different focus from the marketing side. So for the limited launch, the main focus is going to be our mainnet verified operators. These are teams, again, from all over the world, which are running nodes. And most of them are staking companies with a lot of experience. We're going to go in detail into that specific effort and the actual participants probably in a week or two from today. Then we have the launch phase. The launch phase, we're going to focus on our launch partners, this one segment of our launch partners, which are the actual applications. These are the companies that are building on top of the protocol. Essentially, those are decentralized staking applications that are harnessing the power of DVT. And then in the permissionless launch phase, really the focus is going to become TVL and tokenomics. As a reminder, the ssv token is going to be a meaningful part of the network. There is going to be real usage for the token as part of the protocol, and it's embedded in the protocol already for a long time. And we're going to really see how tokenomics come into effect, more or less since the launch phase, but more towards the permissionless launch phase. So just as an overview, our kind of marketing efforts and our focus is going to, in the beginning, be the technology itself, making sure performance and stability are there. So it's going to be a lot of deep dive into the tech and in the actual use cases that it brings out, and obviously making sure it works and stable over time. Then it's going to be use cases. Community involvement is going to follow next. So really find deeper and more meaningful ways to involve the community in everything we do. And then last but not least, the shift is going to be towards TVL and tokenomics. And from a marketing standpoint, basically, it's going to be sort of an ongoing effort that increases throughout the mainnet launch. So in the beginning, it's going to be, you could say, pretty much focusing on the basic things that are a DVT network and the technology itself. And we're going to go bigger and you could say more expensive in our campaigns moving forward, more towards the launch phase and the permissionless launch phase. So it's going to be sort of a gradual effort from our part. I guess that's it from my end. And over to you, Sean.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam. So let me just give a quick shout out then to let everyone know that we are now running weekly AMAs on Mondays that take place at 12 p.m. UTC. They are happening on Discord and on Twitter Spaces. So if you'd like to stay in the loop with what's happening, then do make sure to come along. Now let's go over to some questions then from our members. Let's see, we've got Shiny Lance, who would like to know when is limited launch and do we have a date?
Yeah, so as I shared, the limited launch is going to start at around August.
Brilliant. So it's not long, right? We've already started, as Alon mentioned. We're already in Mainnet now, and we're looking at another month or so to hit that next stage. Awesome stuff. Secondly, during the limited mainnet, how many ETH will be staked based on SSV, and what about public mainnet? Is there an approximate range?
Yeah, so during the limited launch, we're going to have close to 200 validators on Mainnet. So we're talking about between 5,000 and 6,000 Ether at stake in the network. Throughout the public mainnet, that depends on the builders that are building on top of us, right? So as much traction as they get, as much as validators they onboard to the network, it's up to them. Hopefully a lot.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ahiel. We've got a few questions from Jeffro. Let me see. Let's get to the question. Firstly, curious about a few things. Firstly, does the presence of the limited launch imply that there are still unimplemented features or potential bugs lurking? It would be great if you could provide some examples. Let's answer that first one then. So
sure, I'll take it. So there aren't, obviously there's always development, but there aren't any unimplemented features, if I understood the question right. The reason why we divided it into stages is really to have a rollout, which enables us to test everything, to make sure that between the stages we are doing it securely and with the utmost diligence that we can. We could have done everything in one day with kind of a switch, but we decided not to do that. We decided to do it as a rollout, both to give the chance for developers and operators to kind of adopt and make sure everything is working, but also make sure that between the stages, as kind of you figured out, they're incremental, that everything works well. So no unimplemented features.
Great, thank you, Alon.
If there were any bugs, we would have caught them before.
Brilliant, thank you. Second question, I think Ahiel might be able to answer this one. So Jeff was written, I've noticed an increasing number of GitHub issues being tagged as enhancements. Could you please give me a straightforward overview of the enhancements planned for the future and the expected outcomes?
Yeah, I think it's just like a generic label on pretty much everything. You're seeing more issues because we've increased the team. And so there's just more people doing different things. And so you'll see it on the SSV spec repo. You'll see that on the node repo and others. There's just more people working on it. So you'll see, and also we kind of made sure everyone is working through the GitHub to also kind of create transparency towards the code and where it's going. But the label itself, I think, is just a generic, everything. It's kind of a bucket of everything that needs to be done. It's not a bug, basically. Maybe we should use better labels.
Thank you. Last question is, I've also been following the progress of some other DVT projects. I'm curious to know what the team's perspective is on them. Does SSV still maintain its previously recognized first mover advantage? I don't know if Adam wants to have a go at that one.
So first of all, first mover advantage, I think by definition, we have that. We are the first mover in the space. We're the first company who started to work on this protocol. And I think in terms of implementation and, core functionality, we're pretty much, I think, the most advanced by a mile. So with that respect, in that regards, I don't think there's any change in our status. In terms of competitors, I think there are a few ways to look at it. Obviously, competitors make us better because you can learn more. There's an ecosystem being built around you. You need to work harder to maintain that first mover advantage and to make sure you're first to market. But it's also a good way to understand and to to receive validation from the market that there is value in your work, that there is an important piece of technology being built for Ethereum, and other people are trying to build similar solutions with different variations to them. So imagine for example, the L2 space where you have only Polygon. It's unimaginable, right? You need a lot of strong, good competitors, a lot of alternatives. A stronger ecosystem is one where you have different solutions, different implementations, different ideas coming about. If at this point, when we started, we basically, the only company, the only team that was working on this important piece of technology. And if by today we wouldn't have had, 2 or 3 other competitors that are also trying to build DVT implementation, I think it would have been a lot more scary than having competitors, because that means that nobody's looking at what you're doing, nobody thinks there's value in it, and nobody wants to compete. If there's value, there's competition. If there's no value, there's no competition. I think this is a good way to understand and validate the fact that there is value in what we're doing, and that other teams are working on it to try to bring about good solutions for this specific segment.
I wanted to add maybe on being a first mover. So I think it's really important to define first mover at what. If it's just running one cluster of a DVT cluster on Mainnet, we would have we could have done that a year and a half ago. That's not really what we're doing. There's a reason why we set up at the first place being a developer-focused DVT network. So there's two things here, being developer-focused and being a network. Those 2 things I don't see anyone else is doing. And I think we are, in fact, the first ones to have actual developers building on top of our DVT network. And I can go into different features and solidity of design and architecture and development, but all in all, I think that the question is not really who is running the first mainnet DVT cluster. That's really not important. What's important is who is the first one to set themselves up to be adoptable in the easiest way. And I think the choices we made a few years ago are proving themselves. And by far, we are the only ones doing that. There are other DVTs out there. Each one chose a different path. And I think our path is really unique in the sense that we're trying to capture developers because we believe that those developers are the gateway to being successful because they are the ones ultimately running those different staking services and protocols. And so, yeah, we are in that regard first movers by a country mile. And I think that's really where we should look for. DVT is just a piece of technology. It's like L2s, right? It's like optimistic rollups. But what's important is what you do with the technology in order to actually make people use it. And so I think that in that regard, we have a lot of progress.
Awesome stuff. I think that's all the questions then that have been answered. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I'd like to repeat, if you'd like to stay up to date with the developments at SSV, then please come along to our weekly AMAs. Thank you all for watching.